So you've got your early readers figured out and you're nailing down how to instruct your transitional readers. And now you're trying to figure out what in the world you should be doing with your fluent readers during guided reading. Well, I've got you covered, so keep on watching. Hey there, if you're new here, my name is Anna. I was a primary teacher for 23 years, and on this channel, I provide professional development videos to help teachers improve their craft by learning tips and strategies for rigorous and streamlined small group instruction. And of course, how to engage your learners with activities that are fun and exciting, yet still meet the state standards. If these types of videos interest you, please click that little subscribe button below and that little bell next to it, and you will get alerted every single time my new videos go live every week. So thanks for tuning in today. What if I told you that I have a system and a proven structure that I've implemented in my own classroom with my own students that's resulted in all of my students leaving my classroom reading or well above grade level? Well, I do, and I'm going to share it with you today. So your fluent readers are primarily reading around level NO and higher. They are most probably excellent decoders and are very fluid readers. However, while their reading fluency and decoding skills are usually on point, their comprehension at times can not be as strong as you'd like them to be, especially while you're reading those higher level, more complex texts. So with your fluent readers, you want to focus heavily on vocabulary development and higher level comprehension skills and strategies. So that's what we're going to focus on in today's video. We're going to take a deep dive into my fluent readers lesson plan and how I instruct these readers during my small group instruction. So stick with me. Before I jump in and I begin talking about my lesson plan with you, I want to address one of the questions I get extremely often. Honestly, I probably get it daily and multiple times a day. And the question is, do you read chapter books with your students? Do you do novel studies? And if so, how do you do this and what does it look like in your classroom? And in short, yes, I absolutely read chapter books with my advanced readers and even my transitional readers. However, I only do it a few times per year. My main focus during guided reading is to read easily digestible, complex texts with my advanced readers so that I can focus primarily on vocabulary instruction and higher level comprehension instruction. And it's difficult to do that when you're reading chapter books or longer chapter books. So I wanted you to understand that I absolutely do novel studies and we do read chapter books, but I do them in a very different way. And in one of my upcoming videos, I'm actually going to talk about the different activities that I do for novel studies and for reading chapter books with my students. But it isn't like a typical guided reading lesson, because when you're doing a typical guided reading lesson, you want to make sure that the stories are quicker and easier to digest. Not that they are easier books. We want to have complex books, complex storylines, complex characters, but we want to be able to do it in 1 or 2 sittings for guided reading instruction. That's the whole idea. So I absolutely do chapter books and novel studies with my advanced readers and my transitional readers, but I do them a couple of times a year. And not only that, my students are always reading chapter books when they're doing their daily 5 stations or when they're in literacy stations. So they're always reading chapter books that are on their levels, whether they're instructional level and even their independent level. They're absolutely reading chapter books. So that will definitely be addressed in a couple of weeks. So a video will be coming out about what I do with my transitional and advanced readers to do some novel studies with them. So that is definitely coming up. I just wanted to let you know. Okay, so let's jump into my fluent readers lesson plan. Today I'm going to be talking about a story called Round Up Morgan, which is one of my stories. So my overall lesson plan consists of a 3-day lesson plan, and sometimes I will continue the lesson on day 4 based on how my students progress with the story and the comprehension activities or focus that I have for that particular story. Sometimes I like to do 2 different comprehension strategies or skills with a story based on the story. So because sometimes a story can lend itself really well to multiple comprehension focuses or comprehension skills that I want to teach. So sometimes I'll do two different comprehension skills with them. So let's jump in. I'm going to talk about the lesson plan for day 1, day 2, day 3. I'm going to hopefully try to make this a little bit quicker than my transitional video was because I knew it was quite long. So let's jump into day 1. And the first part of the lesson plan for day 1 is book introduction. Again, book introduction is just a quick little excerpt about the book, what the book is about. And of course, in order to get that excerpt, it's very important that you read the book before you start your guided reading with your group. So I absolutely urge you to read the entire story before meeting with group. That's so important in order to write a good structured lesson plan that really will help your students grow and excel in reading and become more contextual readers. You have to know what the story is about. You have to be able to know the story, know the vocabulary, know the focus that you're going to pull out from the story so you could teach it more effectively and teach with urgency. That's so important. We only have 20 minutes for each group, right? So we want to make sure that we're teaching what we need to teach, how we need to teach it, and we teach with urgency. So important. So, book introduction. I will give a quick introduction. I'll just tell you what the introduction is in this story. This story, Round Up Morgan, again, the students have a copy in front of them. This story is about a boy named Morgan. He grew up on a ranch and loves horses. Shifty Sam comes into town and he was known for stealing horses. I want you to read the story to find out how Morgan protected the horses in the town. So very quick, 20-second book introduction. Then we go into preview and predict. This is when the students are going to preview the text. They're going to do a picture walk. I might even stop on one picture and say, what do you think's going on this page of the story? But this is quick. Remember, these are fluent readers. You know what I'm saying? They don't absolutely have to have a picture walk or a preview, but I like to do it because I like to ask some guiding questions when they're doing a preview activity. So it's quick. I might ask them to look at a page and tell me what they see is happening in the story. What do you think is going to happen in this particular book? Why do you think he's called Round Up Morgan? We'll talk about that. So I'll ask some guiding questions to help us with the preview and predict portion. Then we moved into vocab introduction. This is when I'll choose a couple of stories from a couple of vocabulary words from the book that I feel that might be difficult for the students to read and maybe even understand based on the story. Like for this particular story, I chose the word unorthodox and I chose the word incriminated. So these two words are difficult words, not only difficult to say, but difficult to understand. So these might be one or two words that I choose in the book to do some pre-teaching before they read the story. So that's the vocab intro, really simple. All right, now, what's your main focus with your fluent readers? That's my question. What's your main focus? Do we have to teach them how to decode? No, they're fluent. Yes, I mean, there are times that we want to give them some instruction on multisyllabic words to help them be better decoders with multisyllabic words, because now you're dealing with fluent readers, you're dealing with more complex text, you're dealing with very difficult vocabulary in some instances. So we want to make sure that we give them the skills that they need to decode multisyllabic words. So we will do some direct instruction with multisyllabic words and how we figure them out, which is in day 2. But this is important that you focus on. However, the main thing you're doing with your fluent readers here is comprehension. That's what we're focusing on. We want our fluent readers to understand the stories that they're reading on a deeper level. We want them to make more meaning. We want them to have a deeper understanding of the stories. We want them to really dig deep into author's purpose and why the author wrote this particular story. We want to dig deep into theme. We want to dig deep into figurative language and things like that. That's what we're focusing on with our fluent readers. It's not just your simple retelling or simple activities that we're focusing on for comprehension. We want to dig deeper. We want to have more deeper meaning. And honestly, there's about 14 different comprehension strategies that you could focus on that will get you where you need to go with your fluent readers. And I'm going to quickly tell you what they are. They're on my lesson plan. I wrote them out. There's basically 14 different strategies you're going to want to focus on, comprehension strategies, with your fluent readers. So I'm going to just read them to you. And I choose one or maybe two, depending on what I'm focusing on with this particular group. I choose 1 to 2 strategies I'm going to focus on. Now remember, whatever my guided writing activity is, That's one of my comprehension strategies I'm focusing on. So I might pick another comprehension focus than when we're doing some of our discussion questions. So again, you could pick one or two. There's basically 14 comprehension strategies we're going to focus on, and I'm going to tell you what they are. Self-monitor comprehension, retelling, vocabulary development, ask and answer questions based on key details in the text, identify main idea and or central message of a text, analyzing characters and their traits, inferring and drawing conclusions, summarizing main points of a story or a text, evaluating the author's purpose, theme, and point of view with text evidence, compare and contrast, analyzing cause and effect relationships, identifying and using nonfiction text features, understanding text structure, and understanding fact and opinion. That's it. We've got 14 things we need to work on. And those 14 things are comprehension focuses that I'm going to use throughout my school year. And we're going to focus on each one, and we're going to go back to them again. Focus on them, go back to them again. So every time you're reading a book with your students, you're picking out 1 to 2 comprehension focuses on that particular story. Super simple. 14. That's it. All right. So I will decide what I'm going to focus on. Now, since I know for this particular book, I'm going to be focusing on how characters respond to challenges or events in the story. So that's what I know my guided writing is going to be on for this particular book. So it's basically focusing on character traits and how the character responded to an event or challenge. So I'm going to pick something maybe different for my discussion questions. So maybe I'm going to focus on prediction or making connections, or maybe I'm going to focus on analyzing the text, or cause and effect, or figurative language, or theme. So I'm going to decide what I'm going to focus on for the discussion of the text. So read and respond. Now, this is the point where now my students are reading. Now, honestly, I'm not really listening to my Fluent students read. They don't have to whisper read. Sometimes if I want to check something or I want to do a running record with a student, I will have them do a whisper read, but primarily my Fluent readers are going to read silently. They're reading the text silently, and then we're doing a discussion. Now, the difference between my transitional readers and my advanced readers is that when they're reading, they're jotting down ideas or thoughts or questions that they're having based on what I want them to focus on. So I'm going to say to them, maybe I'll say to them, all right, boys and girls, here's what I want you to do. As you're reading the story today, I want you to take your Post-it notes. And when you're reading the story, I want you to just quickly jot down 1 or 2 sentences about what happened in the beginning, what happened in the middle, and what happened in the end. Just a basic summary. And I want you to jot down those notes as you're reading. So this is what Fluent readers are doing. They're jotting down notes based on your comprehension focus you want them to focus on. Or maybe I would say, I want you to jot down 3 questions you have as you're reading the story and put them on your Post-it notes. Maybe we'll share those questions. I might say, I want you to write down what you, make an inference and infer something about our main character, Morgan, as you're reading. Make an inference about his character, or make an inference about why you think he did something, or why he said something. So again, they're jotting down notes as they're reading. That's what your Fluent readers are doing. But again, they're jotting notes based on your direct teaching and your purpose for them to read. So that's important. So you're going to give them a purpose. As you're reading, I want you to jot down A, B, and C. That's what you're going to do. So as they're reading, they're jotting down whatever it is that you want them to focus on their Post-it notes. Okay? So, after that, after they're reading and they're doing their stop and jots and they're writing down their thoughts, writing down their questions based on the purpose that you give them, then we're going to go into discussion prompts. So, I always have specific discussion prompts that I write on my lesson plan. So maybe this one I can say, maybe I'll decide that we're going to be doing, do an inferring discussion. So I might say, how did Morgan change throughout the story? How did he change? Did he change from the beginning to the end? And how did that happen? Why did that happen? What are the reasons that led to the change? And that might be our discussion. I possibly will do a turn and talk. I could possibly have them actually talk about that with the whole group. So I'll do it different ways with this particular group. But again, the discussion questions are probably about 3 to 4 minutes. Now remember, these are fluent readers, so they're reading probably pretty quickly. But again, you have to think about the complexity of the text. But so their reading is usually about anywhere 5 to 6 minutes, maybe less, depending on how quickly they read. Then we're going to be doing the discussion prompts, and then we move into vocabulary instruction. This is all day 1. All right. So you had read and respond where the students are jotting down their notes. Now we're having a discussion prompt where the students were doing discussion about the story. My discussion was on inferring. And then the last part of day 1 is some vocabulary instruction. So vocabulary instruction is you're going to take 2 words from the story and you're going to teach. You're going to do direct vocabulary teaching. That's what you're going to do. So what we're going to do is I'm going to teach them how to do it. So I chose these 2 words. We're going to find them in the book because I know where they are. And then I'm going to teach them. If we don't know what this word means, let's see if we could use some clues in the story to help us understand the book. Giving them direct instruction on vocabulary development and how they figure out unknown words. Number 1, we can use picture clues. Does the picture help us solve this word? Do we know what this word is based on the picture? Number 2, we're going to use context clues of the text. I'm going to show them how to read on and use the context of the text to figure out what the word means. Number 3, we're going to look for known word parts. Maybe there's a word part in the larger multisyllabic word that can help them figure out what that word means. Some have it, some don't. The next possible thing is we can substitute a word that makes sense in the sentence to see if we can figure out a word that would make sense there, and that would also help us figure out what this word means. So that's another strategy. And then, of course, if it's a nonfiction text, we can use the glossary in the back of the book as well. So I teach the use of the glossary also. So again, this is direct instruction teaching for vocabulary development. And I only pick 1 or 2 words, and we do that for that particular story. And that's day 1's instruction. It's 20 minutes. It's definitely 20 minutes, but I go through each of these steps. Again, your main focus for this group of students is deeper comprehension, a deeper understanding of the text, a deeper understanding of the characters, author's purpose, all of those things. That's really the focus for your fluent readers. So let's move on to day 2. So day 2 for your fluent readers, they're going to reread the story once again. And of course, if I have to do any prompting, I will do that. But again, they're not whisper reading. They're just reading silently. So again, I might do a quick running record maybe with some of my students. Maybe I won't. It really depends. I just decide as I know what they're working on and what skills I know they need to focus on. And then we move right into a discussion prompt. So now I pick a new prompt. So for this particular prompt, I talked about analyzing, and we were going to analyze some of the figurative language in this particular story. So this particular story lends itself very well to figurative language. So we're going to talk about what figurative language is. We're going to talk about what figurative language means. We're going to do maybe some, on my whiteboard, I might write down some figurative language phrases, and we'll do a study of figurative language. And then I'll point out some figurative language in the story, and we'll discuss it. We'll have a discussion about it. So my particular question was, did you notice any figurative language in the story? How did it add to the meaning or the enjoyment of the story? So I'm going to ask them, and you know what I'll do? I know where there's figurative language in the story. So I might say to them, boys and girls, I want you to read page 1. And I want you to find the figurative language that the author used on page 1. So they're going to reread page 1, and I'm going to see if they could find the figurative language. And then we're going to talk about the meaning of it and talk about how that figurative language possibly helped us to have a deeper understanding or helped us to enjoy the story even better. So that might be the focus of our discussion for day 2. Maybe it's just on figurative language. So next part of day 2's instruction is word study instruction. Now, your word study for your fluent readers, again, we're not really focusing on making words and analogy charts. Now what we're focusing on is much, much higher level vocabulary words. So now we're dealing with multisyllabic words, the meaning of multisyllabic words, how to understand and get a better understanding of what words mean by using word parts and using Latin and Greek roots, because we're dealing with fluent readers here. So that's what you're focusing on with these readers. So I'm going to just go over what I have on my lesson plan to tell you what I'll focus on with this particular group. We can select a word from the story. So again, this is you doing this ahead of time. You can select a word from the story that you know can be connected to other words and their meaning. Like, for example, let's say the word was benefit. You can teach benefit. You can teach beneficial. You could teach beneficiary. You could teach benefiting. So you want to teach other forms of the word. So this is a great way to help students grow in their vocabulary development by connecting one word to other forms of the word. So that might be one thing that you can do with these fluent readers. Another thing, focusing on Latin and Greek roots, and that's what you could focus on. So, for example, let's say we want to focus on the Latin root multi, and we're going to pick out words from the story that have multi, maybe, and then connect it with other words, multimedia, multiple. So it's taking a portion of a Latin or Greek root or affix, and then teaching them how other words that are made with it and what those words mean, what the Latin and or Greek root or affix means, so they can have a better understanding when they come to words that have these roots and affixes. They know how to solve them. They know how to word solve them. So we're teaching them much higher level skills now when it comes to word study with your fluent readers. That's what we're focusing on. We want our fluent readers, to now build their vocabulary and build their comprehension skills. And that's what's going to do it. We don't need to focus on simple word study and making words and vowel teams and vowel sounds and all those things. Now we're dealing with multisyllabic, complex vocabulary words. Another way you can do that is to choose one or two words and then literally define those words, kind of like we did in the vocab discussion in day one, and have them write them down in their reading notebook or even a guided reading notebook that you have for them. Whatever you have, we want to just do direct instruction with vocabulary, knowing the definition, writing the definition down. Boring, but something that they need. So I might do that sometimes. Another thing that you want to do is make it and break it, which I talked about in my transitional lesson plan. I will do this with my fluent readers as well. So what you want to do is you want to choose words from the story. You want to say, open up to page, whatever it is, 7 or 8 or 9, and I want you to find the word frustrated. And that's a difficult word. It's got it's a multisyllabic word, and we want them to be able to make it and break it. We want them to break it up based on their syllables. And the reason we want children to learn how to break up words for their syllables is because when they come to an unknown word and a difficult vocabulary and complex word, that they know how to attack it. That's what we're teaching them. We're teaching them word attack skills that they can use when they come to a really complex word that they don't know and they're having difficulty decoding. We're giving them the tools to help them decode those unknown words with different strategies. So teaching multisyllabic words using a make it and break it strategy is really helpful, especially for our fluent readers, because they're going to come up to some really tough words. I mean, just in this book alone, we had unorthodox, criminal. Now, criminal, they'll know what criminal means, but it's a multisyllabic word, so that's why I chose it. Disappeared, frustrated, meandered. So these are some of the words I chose from the book that I want them to make and break so they can understand how to break apart multisyllabic words to help them. So that's word study instruction for fluent readers. So I will do different types of word study with them based on the book, based on the vocabulary words that are in the book, because that kind of guides my instruction. That informs my instruction when I'm looking at a specific book and I know what the focus is in that book and the types of vocabulary that are used in the story. So that's word study for day 2. And that's the end of day 2. So day 2 is just read and prompt if we're doing that, but usually I'm not prompting because they're reading silently. Again, I might be doing a running record, maybe not. There's always the discussion prompt. That's where your comprehension, that's where that deep comprehension comes in when we're having a discussion about the story. So this particular one, I talked about analyzing and we talked about figurative language, and then we went right into word study where where I'm teaching them very specific skills on how to help them decode and understand the meaning of multisyllabic, complex vocabulary words. Day 3. Day 3 is guided writing. So day 3, this is when we want to go deeper into understanding the text, and we want to focus on a specific comprehension skill. So for this particular story, I wanted to focus on character traits, and I wanted to focus on how the character responded to major events in the story. So what I do is we took, in this particular activity we choose a major event that happened and then how that character responded to it with evidence from the text. That's what we're doing. So there were a couple of different events that happened in this particular story and challenges that happened in this particular story. And that's why I chose this particular comprehension strategy, because this book lent itself well to this focus. So again, you want to read the book before you start teaching and making your lesson plan and say, okay, what can I teach from this? What comprehension skill and strategy can I teach with this book that will help my students gain a deeper understanding, a deeper meaning of the story, and really connect with the text? That's what we want our fluent readers to do. And of course, build vocabulary. So for this particular story, they are going to focus on a major events and challenges that the Morgan, our main character, dealt with, and how that particular character, or how Morgan handled that event or that challenge. And of course, we would use text evidence. So I would teach this how to do this. We would do maybe one together, and then they would work independently, and then we would share. So that would be the focus of my guided writing for day 3. Day 3 is just guided writing. Now, if my students don't finish their guided writing on day 3, I might meet day 4. Maybe not. Maybe I will have them finish it for homework. Maybe I'll have them finish it for morning work. Maybe I'll have them finish it for work on writing instruction. Or, I'm sorry, their work on writing station that they're going to. Maybe I'll ask them to finish it. So, like I said, I do a variety of things with this particular group. But overall, that's the structure of my Fluent Readers Guided Lesson Plan and what I'm doing with them. Again, it's a 20-minute lesson, just like sometimes I try to make it 15 since they're fluent, but usually it's about a 20-minute lesson. So I try to stick with 20 minutes for each of my groups. And that, in a nutshell, is my Fluent Readers Guided Reading Lesson Plan. Okay, I know. You might feel overwhelmed, but I don't want you to. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. Again, this takes time and practice. Remember what I said. Much like your students need to practice your routines and your procedures, you need to practice guided reading instruction. So give yourself some grace. It takes time. Please leave me a comment below and tell me about your guided reading instruction for your fluent readers. Do you do this type of plan? What do you do during guided reading? I'd love to know about it with your fluent readers. Let me know in the comments below. And also don't hesitate to ask your questions, because maybe your question will be the topic of my next video. So please don't hesitate to ask your questions in the comments, or even just post a comment about the video. I love reading them. So please don't hesitate to do that. So that's it, friends. That, in a nutshell, is how I work with my fluent readers. I have created a detailed, editable lesson plan for you to use for your fluent readers. And that link is in the comments below. So you can go ahead and download that editable lesson plan for your fluent readers and use it for your own lesson planning. Also, if you would like to join a community of teachers just like you, I have a private Facebook community where I share teaching ideas and tips and strategies, and I share freebies there as well. Please also click that link in the description below, and you can join our amazing Facebook community of teachers. I would love to see you in the group. Lastly, if you like this video, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up. And of course, leave your comments and questions below. I love to read them. And maybe possibly your comment or question could be the topic of my next video. And please don't forget to click that subscribe button and that little bell so you never miss one of my videos that I post each and every week. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope you found this helpful. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.